Hello, this is wmpyr here to share my philosophy with you guys. The topic in this video is quite complex, so I'm not quite sure how to present it, so I apologize if I'm all over the place. I was watching a movie called Gamer just right now tonight, and this movie, if you've seen it, has a lot of very complex topics in there about humanity, where we're headed, and like the way the state is right now. Even though that movie's in the future, there's a lot of parallels that we could associate with the stuff that's going on in the film. And yeah, right now the sport of MMA is like extremely popular. It's one of the major sports here in the United States. And part of me is really happy that a martial art is so popular. But on the other hand, because it's a sport and because it's so mainstream, there's definitely some big negatives to that. And recently I kind of felt like in the world market of MMA, the recent scouting has been occurring in India. So you see some fighters from India show up as of recent. That's kind of cool to see, those guys coming in. But on the other hand, I thought it was also kind of sad, because I'm seeing them wearing these Muay Thai shorts and, basically doing a good job fighting up to date with today's MMA fighters. So, they're well trained, and I see them fighting well balanced because they cross train and they can stand up strike, they could clinch, they can throw, they could do takedowns, and they're on the ground, and they could strike from the ground, hold positions like wrestlers, and they could also do submissions and escape and stuff. So I mean, it's all there, and to see that, like I said, in a way it's cool, but in another way I feel kind of sad because I remember watching a documentary about the wrestlers in India. Their traditional historical wrestling goes way, way, way back. Long heritage, influenced the world, and they had some amazing wrestlers. I'm talking about the wrestling where they wrestle in the dirt. They have oil on, and they have a very, very strict lifestyle they need to follow. I think they're vegetarian, if I'm not mistaken. All the way to even how they massage each other, and just all that stuff is just like all very, very strict, and it's like a very, very how do you call it, organized wrestling camp kind of thing, that you go to a place, and you're privileged to do this type of thing. And by organized, I don't mean like in modern society, but I mean like it's all regimented, very strict rules. So, seeing that was their original, and I was very interested in it. Part of me, I remember back in the day when I was training, when I was really into grappling, really training deeply into it, on and off for about 10 years. At the time, I had the comfort because if I wasn't doing too well in grappling, I could always say to myself, "Hey, your main thing is stand-up striking." But having that comfort of saying that, and then but still learning grappling, it was nice. It relieved a lot of pressure for me. But watching these guys from India train in their traditional style of wrestling, I thought it was kind of cool because it was a completely different point of view, and in a way they didn't have the pressures of like what you see over here in the United States with competition. Their view of competition was a little different, and like one of the main things about MMA is, yes, it's a competition, yes, it's a sport, but honestly it's like the closest thing you're gonna get to a street fight. How much more can we make it closer to a street fight? And in some ways, it's so much harder because the competition level is so high. It's so competitive. The guys you're going to fight are going to be in incredible shape. They are tremendous athletes, you know. You're like fighting a guy who's like 1 out of 1,000. It's just, there's 1,000 people that enter the local MMA gyms, local kickboxing gyms, local grappling gyms, and only a handful of them make it. Only a handful of them make it as far as to where they actually even get on TV. We have no idea how high that bar is, But these fighters from these wrestlers, from India, it almost seems like they're wrestling and they are bound in that tradition, and that what they're doing is not as realistic as today's MMA fighters. But on the other hand, they don't have to worry as much as about like injury or hurting another fighter, I'm not, and just that alone, I mean, is the price worth it to train in something that is, let's say, more effective on the street, but how much sacrifice is going to be made for that? Because at the end of the day, I really believe that if you train in, like, let's say, the wrestling style of India, and if you seriously train in it, even though it's not as realistic as MMA, I don't see how, how someone could call that ineffective. I think it's probably going to serve you very, very well on the street or in a self-defense situation. So, that's kind of my point of view, my philosophy. It's not really about the style, but if you train in something seriously, are there styles that are more effective? Sure, if you spar a lot, those experiences you get are priceless, but at the same time, just the consequences of all that, I think, is very severe. The injuries and what you're doing to somebody else and dealing with the ego and all that, I just don't think it's really worth it. So, when I find myself training in Eskrima, that's one of the things that I really like about it, especially at this age, where now that I'm, at the big 4-0, I really like training in Eskrima because I don't have to worry about hurting somebody. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of people that do train in Eskrima, that do the full contact fighting, that do the sport, but I don't have to worry about that, and I like that. I actually like that. I already did my sparring when I was younger, and maybe not really in the Eskrima area. I did my sparring more in the hand-to-hand area, but that's fine with me. I can let it go. But now I just feel fortunate to be able to practice the style and to keep it going, and for someone to just look at what I'm doing from the outside and be like, you're not realistic, or you're, to criticize me and say that's the way you're training is not as practical or effective on the street or self-defense or in combat or whatever. And it doesn't bother me because I already put in my time, and I'm glad to be able to train at this age right now. And it's nice. So looking at the wrestlers from India, I am kind of jealous. I wish I could train like those guys, train in actual grappling, but if I went to a grappling school here in the United States, in my local Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school, I think I would be worried about getting hurt for sure. And, my ego, I mean, if someone's trying to hurt me, I think it's just perfectly normal for me wanting to hurt them back. And I do have some of the skills to do arm bars, kimuras, Americanas, guillotine chokes, all that stuff too, But yeah, it's just kind of cool to stay away from that and to see just to think about the grapplers in India training in their own traditional style. Now I could see it. Like back then, I probably couldn't. I thought, oh, what they do is cool, but at the end of the day, I would tap them out. That was my viewpoint. Now I don't view it that way. And now I think what they got is awesome. And, if they train hard at it, then that's only more benefit to them. And the way they train, they make their joints and all that stronger. Whereas if you went to a commercial Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school, you're constantly getting armbarred, constantly getting choked and submitted. At least for me, that took a wear and tear on my joints, and it took a long time for me to do rehabilitation exercises and to heal that up. And thank goodness for the Russian martial arts, because that's what that did for me. Training in the Russian martial arts was, of course, they offer so much. Russian martial arts is a broad term. It covers everything. But for me personally, I enjoyed it because there were a lot of rehabilitation type exercises in there, and that really helped me out. So anyway, I'm sorry I was all over the place, and it's really cold, and I'm having trouble breathing, and so I'm sorry if this wasn't a smooth talking video, so to say, but hopefully, it's just some stuff for you guys to think about, food for thought. And thank you for watching and just sharing my 2 cents. So don't take anything personal, and take care, folks.